Hey, it's great to meet you.
Likewise.
So, hey, congratulations for Doing My Drugs
Oh,
documentary.
thank you.
So, let's start off with the easy question. How did you come across the topic of doing a documentary like this?
Really, it was, I stumbled across it because my dear friend Thomas, who he and I were just friends. We met, we've been hanging out for several years. And then one day he asked me, do you want to make a movie in Africa? And I said, sure. So we wrote a little grant to the Danish Composer Society. He's a musician in Denmark, right? And then we asked for 60K to shoot a 10-minute short, and they gave us 20. And Thomas booked us flights to Zambia. And then I kept asking him, what do you want this movie to be about? He said, I just want to know if songs can save the world. And I was like, okay. And then I was like, well, I better start Googling Thomas, see if I can put a script together. And then I learned on Google that Thomas was HIV positive. So that was like, wow, okay. And then I started looking into Zambia and I realized, oh, wow, this is a thing. And we didn't talk about it. And so we went down there to make a music film. And then very quickly, within days, I could see emotions welling up inside of him. So we ended up, it became apparent pretty quickly that we were making an AIDS film.
Wow, that's fascinating. So, when was the first time you met Thomas? Because he's over there in Europe and you're over here in the States, right?
Right. Yeah, we met on a small island in Indonesia, actually. Oddly enough, a little island called Gili Trawangan.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It was serendipitous. You know, he had just been outed in the press, actually, in Denmark, and on the eve of his second album coming out. So he was kind of bummed out and just hanging out down there, trying to recoup. I think his record label sent him down there. He was writing songs, and we met and became fast friends.
Wow, and you guys hit it off that easy. Wow, that is remarkable.
Yeah.
So when did your guys' friendship started, and then when did this documentary start for you?
We met in 2009, and then we started working on the concept in 2013, and we flew to Zambia for the first time in January of 2014.
Wow. How long did the process take for you personally to create this documentary?
It took a long time. It took a long time for me to get it right, and it was so important that I wanted to make sure that I got it right. So we shot about 3 years. So there was that. I was shooting a living, breathing story. He was he had one little boy when I first started, and then his wife was pregnant, and then he had a second child on the way. And when the second child was born, more story was happening. You know, he started getting hateful messages on Facebook. How could you do that? Passing on HIV to your kid. And he was like, wow, everybody's so naive. And that became a point for him where he was like, you know what? I can't have my children growing up in a world where people believe this. And, you know, if you're well medicated, it's impossible to pass it on. And people don't know that. And they certainly don't know it in Zambia. So Thomas just started working on, we started working on it together, actually, too. He and I co-founded the Muchimba Music Foundation, and we threw all these test for ticket concerts where if you take an HIV test, you're going to get a ticket into a rock show. And so we've been working on it about 7 years now.
Wow, that is pretty fascinating. So basically, the start of your documentary journey actually started in Zambia, not in Denmark.
Yeah, it started in Zambia. There was a point where I think Thomas really didn't want to talk about it, actually. He just wanted to be a musician because that's how he thinks anyways. You know, when he was a young man before his dad passed from AIDS, his dad had gone on national television down in Denmark to show the world that, hey, my son is just like everybody else. And so Thomas has never really had that stigma. He's always just been very like, this isn't a hindrance to me. This is just who I am. So originally it's always been about the music. And then I think he realized, oh, okay, this is powerful. This music can actually help make change. And so, yeah, at first there was talk of not including it in the story. And then it just became apparent, like, no, this is my duty.
Yeah. So So it took a little convincing from you, or he managed to convince himself to change his own mind?
He had no choice. He was so overwhelmed with emotion and meeting with his family and learning from other musicians and people. You know, we were interviewing people. Oh, how does music affect your daily this? You know, what types of instruments do you play, etc. HIV, HIV, or this. The conversation always weaved back to HIV, and it was just like he came to it. He came to it to himself, absolutely, 100%. And actually, what happened is he just started writing songs. So you could see he was listening and hearing. You know, Thomas communicates through his music a lot. And I think some of that maybe stems from such the hardships he had as a child, seeing both of his parents die and being told you're going to die. Because, you know, in the 80s and in the early 90s, that was it was a death sentence back then. So Thomas got lucky. And so I think he realized, okay, you know, he was taken to Denmark when he was 3 months old. Everybody else who was born in Zambia, HIV positive in the 80s, they're dead. So he knew that he had to communicate to his fellow countrymen in Zambia, and it came out naturally. He just started recording songs, and I was just like trying to capture it.
So at which point during your documentary production that you guys realized the narrative was not about the music, but it was about the HIV AIDS, that you changed in the narrative?
Day 3.
Oh, wow. Or pretty early on then.
Right away. Yeah. It was immediate.
So tell me more about this country, Zambia, because obviously HIV AIDS is not a death sentence for
Right.
us anymore, but it could still be a death sentence in Zambia. Am I correct?
Kind of. If it's a mindset, it's a death sentence if you choose to ignore it and you don't treat it. That's the key. The meds are free and available widely in Zambia. The problem down there is stigma. It's the thought of, you know, they feel that if they don't know, they're better off, which can't be any more naive. You have to find out. You have to be tested. You have to know your status, and then you have to be treated. And once you're treated, you know, it's prevention through treatment and adherence to antiretroviral drugs. That's why the film is called Doin My Drugs, and that's why Thomas sings about it so much. It's a very simple lesson, and it's one that if the Zambians, if the message spreads widely, the rates are going to drop significantly, we feel. You know, so it's not a death sentence in any country, anywhere in the world. You just have to treat it.
And one of the major themes for your documentary was to basically try to get more people to get tested. Why don't people want to get tested? Was it just because it's the stigma of trying to discover if they have HIV or AIDS?
Absolutely. I mean, it's, you know, they're shunned in the community. There's shame involved. There's fear. I think we can all relate to the fear of, you know, getting tested for a deadly disease. And it's the culture that's, you know, in the 80s, there's an entire generation that's missing in sub-Saharan Africa. I think it's something like 60% of the youth in Africa are all 25 years and younger. And that's because literally an entire generation was wiped out because of this thing. So it's scary, and it was scary. And I think they still kind of cling to that. You know, the messaging was strange, or there was a lot of unknowns back then. But yeah, it's fear, shame, stigma. You know, people are dying all the time from AIDS, but nobody dies from AIDS down there. You go to a funeral and they say, our brother died of a kidney failure or lung disease, whatever. No one will ever admit that their family member died of AIDS.
It almost mirrors to what we're actually going through with this pandemic in some certain countries right now.
There's a lot of parallels right now, actually. Yeah, I think that lesson is comparable. I think that yes, I agree.
So at which point during the production was the idea of the concert came about?
Oh, that was years. We were going back down into Zambia a lot, recording music. And I think, you know, Thomas started working it out in his head. How can we apply this in a practical manner, actually? and he came up with the test for ticket idea. And we brought a team together. We worked with a lot of NGOs and nonprofit foundations, and it became apparent we could do this. We could throw a concert, like a one-day Lollapalooza, if you will. And it worked. We found out that it worked. The kids were really eager to take that test, something that you wouldn't see in generations past. Sure, I'll go see my favorite artists, and they take a test, and it was a 3 or 4 week testing campaign. So we were able to not only test, but we would enroll them into patient care treatment programs. So it's a program that works, and we'd like to continue it.
Wow, that is amazing. And what about the recruitment efforts for the other musicians? Where did you find the other ones to be included in the documentaries?
It was really organic. It was through Thomas's brothers. So his brother is he was friends with one prominent musician, this fellow named Danny Kaya. Danny is probably the most ardent HIV musician activist. He's been singing about it for 15 years. He puts at least 1 or 2 songs about HIV awareness on every one of his albums. He has this song called Kaya that's about 10 years old. That is an anthem down there. It's a really important song. Will I live to see 2016, or some of the lyrics, and people really clung to it and have listened to him. But I think that, so they hooked up eventually, initially Danny and Thomas hooked up, and then they started making music together. And through that, we connected with a whole network of musicians. Yeah.
Not too much convincing those musicians to be part of the documentary.
Exactly. And I feel like that, Thomas was the missing link really for them. He kind of puts them over the edge, their messaging over the edge, because, when everyday Zambians would hear that Thomas is HIV positive, 35 years old, they shrug it off and say, okay, they don't believe it, but it's real.
Yeah, no kidding. Now, you mentioned that he received death threats about having kids before being HIV positive. Was those death threats coming from Zambia, or was that coming from Denmark? No,
it wasn't death threats. It was very just rude ignorance, and it was in Denmark. My wife's pregnant. Oh, how could you do that? Why would you pass HIV on to your kid? It's so selfish. I mean, it doesn't get any more ignorant than that. So it wasn't death threats. No, it was just ignorant statements that helped, encourage Thomas to keep going.
That's quite surprising that the ignorance would actually come from a developed country, not an African country itself.
Yeah, Thomas will be the first one to tell you he gets it in Denmark all the time, and he grew up with it as well. Stigma isn't just in Africa. It's here in the States. It's there in Denmark, and Denmark is one of the most progressive cultures on the planet, I think.
So what is Thomas really like, off camera himself? Because on camera he seems, like an easygoing, laid back type of guy, but he could be entirely different off camera.
Yeah, the camera doesn't lie. He's pretty laid back. He speaks a lot through his music, really. He keeps himself. I think he's always thinking. You can see, but he's great. I love that guy. He's a great person, fun to be around, very charismatic, lights up the room when he walks in. And I mean, how can you deny that afro?
That is a very signature part of him. So that is true. So when he actually composes music just comes easily, like at any moment, for himself?
All the time. Yeah, he's glued to that guitar. He's always got the guitar. It's either slung over his shoulder or in the room, and he's always picking it up, plays the piano. He's a songbird. Yeah.
And so throughout this entire process, as he was making new music for the concert, you were there most of the time.
Oh yeah, I was there quite a bit. Actually, one of the years I was in Zambia for 134 days of one of the years. I think I went there like 6 times in 18 months. It was pretty intense when we were shooting the heart of the film. Yeah. I actually pride myself in being in the room, and being there to capture those moments. There's a lot of really raw moments in the film when they're writing songs for the first time. It was a thrill to be in the room with them and seeing that.
Wow.
Yeah.
So tell me more about Zambia. You know, I had to Google the country.
Yeah. It's sub-Saharan Africa. It's verdant, it's green, the people are great. You know, Zambia is one of the few countries that had a bloodless handover of power from colonial England. So it's a very peaceful place. There's not much racism there. They're very welcoming people. They have this saying, it's called One Zambia, One Nation. And it's hard to unite that many, it's very tribal in Africa, but Zambians are just lovely people and really cool. It's a great place, deep culture. You know, in the 60s, after they gained their independence, they had all sorts of musical movements. I don't know if you've ever heard of Zamrock from the 70s. Great experimental rock, and really, it's a lovely place. It's great.
I think you did the country justice through your documentary. It looks lovely. It doesn't look like a like that stereotypical depressed African country. It looks very well developed. It looks like a country that a lot of people should visit.
Yeah, and that's because we have some of the greatest articulated artists. The artists are just so articulate and well spoken, and those guys are so driven to create the change, and they made their country look great.
So how did the production process go with you, since you had to spend so many days in Zambia? Basically, you just stuck it with like a low budget guerrilla style of filming.
Pretty much. Yeah, I was really run and gun. It was a lot of funding as you go. It's not like we had the whole budget in place and we shot the film. It was, as you say, guerrilla. Oftentimes it would be me and three other crew members from LA. We're driving, we're booking, we're figuring it out, we're fixing flats. It's a hard place for production.
I understand this is technically your directorial debut for any type of film. How was that overall experience for yourself?
Oh, it was fantastic. And it was also grueling, and it was also a lot of lessons learned. I walked into a lot of pitfalls, but I've been a filmmaker and in the film industry for a couple decades now, so I knew a lot of what was going on. But it was awesome. I think making documentaries is very very tough.
You want to stick with the documentaries for now? Or
I'm actually in pre-production on a documentary about my friend Keith Thornton, Cool Keith. He's a rapper from the Bronx, so I'm already in it. We're already doing another one.
Wow.
Yeah.
That tells me about you, Tyler.
Oh yeah.
Meeting interesting friends, and all of them just happen to be musicians.
Yeah, exactly. Cool Keith, it's the next one. Check it out.
Are you a musician yourself?
Well, sure. Yeah, I'll tickle the ivory maybe a little bit.
Now, being your first film itself, obviously you mentioned there were some of the challenges. So if someone was going to, walk the same footsteps, what are some of the challenges that you would actually warn them about?
Oh boy, don't show your work too soon. Make sure it's polished. Make sure you have a really, really killer team, great producer, and be polite to the South Africans.
Obviously, that is some good advice. Now, for the concert itself, that was probably it. Was that the easiest thing to film, or was that one of the hardest things? Because it's very public, so I figured you could just walk around with the camera.
Well, it was tough because we were still small. And actually, I'm the executive director of the Muchimba Music Foundation, so I was doing a lot of the concert production. So that was the main focus. We had, we tested 10,802 people, so we had a huge crowd. And we were at a big venue, the showgrounds in downtown Lusaka. So I was wearing a lot of hats that day. So it was tough. In fact, I wish that I had had a bigger budget and bigger crew to film it properly, but we still got what we needed, but it was challenging.
You know, 10,000 for a
Yeah.
concert is actually amazing, especially for a first concert.
Yeah, it was, we were in awe of the turnout and the response from everybody. Yeah. I'm hoping that it continues and Thomas turns into this this beacon of hope, you know. He is a beacon of positivity. And I think he can influence an entire generation with his message. So yeah, bring it on. Let's do a 90,000.
And if you had to basically do this again, what would you do differently?
Oh boy. I would maybe get more of the funding in place before I started. Yeah, I mean, I feel like we made a lot of good moves. You know, I tried to get it done in a few years. It's crazy how long docs take. I mean, this is 7 years. This is a big moment. We're really excited to finally get it out. So yeah, I don't know. There wasn't, I think about that all the time, and there's not much I could have done differently. It was just that kind of story.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'm just curious because, like, with every documentary, you guys have filmed a lot. How many extra footage is still out there that you couldn't include in the documentary?
So much. I mean, we shot 750 hours. That's a ton.
It is a ton.
Yeah, and there were so many beautiful scenes, of course, that didn't make the film. But we're gonna leak some of that stuff over the next couple of months, you know? A lot of music videos, things like that, but oh boy, so much footage. I actually have a, here, let me show you.
Okay.
I have a suitcase full of hard drives. It's a lot.
So that's 750 hours worth of footage. And it all
I got gigabytes. I got terabytes. What do you need?
so Thomas is a huge part of his life is in that suitcase.
Yeah. You know, at one point he said, I have this box that you know, a friend of his father's, after Thomas's father had passed, came to Thomas when he was 21, and he said, I have this box that I want you to have. And Thomas didn't look at it. He didn't look in the box. He looked at it once and didn't care to go there because I think it was too painful. He told me about the box. I said, well, where's this box? And I went down into his basement, and it had 3,000 slides of photography from his father. So a lot of those old photos you see are his dad, Jens's photographs. I backpacked that into the States one time, so you can add that to the suitcase of hard drives. Crazy.
You are certainly one dedicated director on documenting his life.
Yeah.
If there was one scene that you wish that you included, what would that be?
Oh, the one scene that that's a great question. I need to prepare for that question. There's so many. What was the best one? Ah, I can't think of it right now. You know, the editing, because I finished editing like, you know, a year and a half ago, so it's kind of, maybe I'm blocking it out. No, I don't know. I'll have to get back to you. Maybe I'll write that one to you.
Yeah, you know, it's all good. I completely understand. You worked on a project like this for years, and then you're in there for like months and months of looking over the footage.
Yeah.
So I could completely understand, you know, looking after footage over and over again and trying to make the important decision.
Yeah.
But you know, it's just the decision making process.
You know what it would be? It would be musical performances, because we had so many solid, amazing performances. Like, for example, Thomas would play live and open up for Danny and interact with the locals, and you know, ultimately you have to just choose one of each song. You can't choose them all, so that would be definitely it. so many musical performances, great ones, emotional ones that are just left on the cutting room floor.
That is terrific. Well, let me wrap it up with one more thought with you, Tyler. Obviously, we're talking via Zoom right now because
Right.
it's crazy times right now. But how are you staying sane and creative yourself?
Well, this has kept me busy, and I also run a set design and fabrication firm here in Los Angeles. And this week I'm staying sane by building a Christmas extravaganza. So I'm building sets.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you are keeping busy, and I look forward to things open up and you could get right on to your next 3 to 7 years of your next documentary.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Hopefully it's shorter.
Well, what do they say? It's easier the second time around, right?
Yeah. Yep. I heard that.
Well, hey, Tyler. Hey, thank you
Thanks.
very much for speaking with me. And once again, congratulations for your
Thank you so much.
documentary, Doing My Drugs. You know what? I love the music in this film. Like I just wanted to basically hunt down these songs and listen to it over and over again myself.
Well, the album comes out next Monday on the 30th November. So
Oh,
check it out.
You answered my question. I could actually get the music.
Yeah, the soundtrack. Great.
Thank you very much, Tyler.
Thank you.
Let's do this again.
Okay, anytime. Give me a call.
All right. Bye now.
Bye.